The final months of the year are a time to reflect on accomplishments and create goals for the future. I'm Patrice Sikora with your host, Jeremy Hauser, who's always thinking of his advisors and their futures. So, Jeremy, the fourth quarter always seems to be busy for the financial industry. What are you and your team up to?
We are very busy around here at InsurMark, in business and also personally as well too. Here in just the month of October itself, I think maybe 15 days total throughout October. I'm going to be traveling for business or also for most of it is business, but maybe a couple days here and there where me and Christina, we went to St. Thomas earlier this month with one of our carrier partners who help design products. So we got an opportunity to be with some of the top advisors, top consultants that help advisors across the country. So got some really good nuggets on what advisors are doing that are having success. So we went out there to St. Thomas. Thankfully, we were able to get out of there right before the hurricane was
Oh,
a couple miles away from us on that front. Yeah, so October's busy. Recently had an opportunity to actually go on a webinar with none other than DFA, Dimensional Fund Advisors. So I was in the Austin headquarters, got a chance to check out their office. They invited myself to help them out with talking about not just dimensional, but also that's one of the fixed index annuity volatility controlled indexes that are available for advisors. So got to share some best practices there. And then we also have nothing else but none other than our Palmetto Bluff family reunion here, where our top advisors are going to be able to coordinate. So that's where we're at right now. So we are definitely full speed into quarter four and have a lot of travel that was on the itinerary this quarter.
and I know how much you love travel. How much? Yes.
Yeah, as we talked about it before, I love it.
All right. So, talk to me about Ascent to Greatness. What is it? What's the thought behind it?
Yeah, and so in Palmetto, we actually had a theme, the Ascent to Greatness. One of our speakers as well, that was one of his themes that he talked about during our get together there. And really, it's about where our industry is and where we're going. And same thing goes with our advisors. You know, I mentioned I was at one of our partners here earlier this month. And this team has been one of the most innovative organizations in the annuity, fixed index annuity space here over the last 15, 17 years now. And one thing that they continue to see is they were predicting this a couple years ago that the fixed index annuity industry was going to be an industry that was eventually going to surpass $100 billion within a calendar year of premiums across the country. So as of right now, sitting here today, I'm pretty comfortable saying that 2023 is not done yet, but we are well on our way to have the first year to be over $100 billion of fixed index annuities for an industry. And during that conference, we were chatting, and he was talking about here over the next 5 to 10 years, he could see this industry becoming a $500 billion
Ooh.
industry. So that's extreme growth. So not just for the industry, but in order to scale from an InsurMark level, so just talking about our company, we just recently hired, we hired 9 people in the last 60 days. So we are making sure that we are delegating and being efficient with our times, playing into people's strengths, but also hiring individuals to find new people, new advisors that are raising their hands, that are wanting to join us on that journey to become go from good to great, leverage a lot of the resources and technology we have here. And then also we're now trying to get our advisors within that same mindset too, to really focus in on the business side of things, where although they provide a lot of products as solutions to their consumers, it's all about finding the next person, but really we're helping our advisors morph their practice more into a business and become a business owner. Similar to InsurMark, we're having them leverage a lot of the technology into their practice to be more efficient with their time, helping them control their calendar, helping them hire individuals to delegate certain tasks to that might not be revenue generating activity, but maximizing their time. So that's what the theme of Ascent to Greatness is about is really just making sure you're dialed in to the resources we have here at InsurMark, but also in order to run your business to be most efficient as possible, you have to have the right team in place to do that.
What are some other ways that advisors can do this, can go from good to great?
Well, it all starts up top. It's the mindset. The mindset is you just have to really start to become your own standards, and that's what we talked about a little bit at the meeting. We've talked about this over the course of the last couple of podcast episodes too. But in order to go from good to great, you got to start realizing that what got you here, and if you're now, not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody wants to go to that next level. And some people are content and fine with where they're at, which nothing wrong with it. But if you really want to grow your practice in, like I mentioned at the beginning here, an industry that's going to basically go from 100 billion to 500 billion, and you want your fair share of market share, if you're willing to put the work in, willing to put in the time in order to be as efficient as you want to maximize on that, you have to be right upstairs in your mindset. And then that comes to just going back to time. You have to make sure you have the right team. Certain things you'll find that as success, when it comes with success, some of the people that got you there may not be there in the future. And that's okay, because you'll start to be, as you're evolving, you'll find your way throughout the process. So that's really what we talk about with the Ascent to Greatness, is some of the struggles that may come about that, but also the greater thing is you're also creating a better you in that format itself too. And really it comes back to confidence also.
Yeah.
So you have mindset, you have confidence. And I'm not even sure if I've mentioned it or not. So I played baseball back in the day. Did you know that? Or
I did, yes.
okay. So I don't remember if I've even talked about that. So I did play baseball back in college and throughout. So going to this confidence level, really in tying into the whole good to great. So by no means was I a great baseball player. So, but
You made the team. Come on, you made
I
the
was,
team.
I was good enough. So I got the opportunity to play in college. And I remember there was a specific week. So there was a week, and it was my senior year of college. And in baseball, there's certain times where as a hitter, you go into the box, everybody starts at the same place. The count is 0-0. So you have no balls, no strikes, you get into the box. So some of the things as a baseball player, so those that have played understand, is there's a difference when your confidence level is at a different level and you're stepping into the box, although the count is 0-0, but in your mindset, you feel like you have a 2-0 count. And what that means is in your head, that fastball, or you're looking for your pitch of what you're going to drive to whatever part of the field it might be. The way that when your mindset takes over and you feel that confident in the box and whatever pitches, you're not looking for a specific spot. You're just looking for the ball. The ball goes from becoming just a baseball to it looks like a basketball when it comes to you. For those that play baseball, they get it. They know that expression. So when you got that ball coming in there and that confidence level, you're just hitting anything and you just become an amazing baseball player. So I remind myself of, there was a week that was we went to Arkansas. We also had games in Austin. And during that week of baseball, we had a Tuesday game, and we had 3 games the weekend prior, and then we had 3 games the following weekend. So in that, call it 7 games spurt, I ended up hitting, for the first time in my career, actually, I hit 2 home runs in a Tuesday. So our Tuesday game, that was the first time in my career. I have never been known as a baseball player that was hitting the long ball. So that was pretty cool experience. So coming off of that Tuesday travel, I hit 2 home runs that game. The following weekend, I ended up hitting an additional 2 home runs. I hit a grand slam. And so I remember it was like a conference player of the week. And the reason I tell you that story, you know why?
Confidence.
That too, but I just want you to know how good I was that
Oh,
week.
well, for 1 week anyway. For 1 week, you were good.
For that one solid week. But But the reality is, yes, it's the confidence. So at that point, I mean, who is this guy hitting grand slams, hitting two home runs in a game? And all of a sudden I went from batting in the 7, batting in the 5 hole. Now, don't get me wrong, as the year progressed, I got back to who I was. But I will tell you that when you have that confidence level, all of a sudden you are living up to that standard that you put your mindset to, of why am I not a power hitter? I should be a power hitter. I'm seeing the ball, I'm hitting it over the fence. So it's the same thing that you apply those type of skill sets to work, to family. Why not check yourself in to living an outer body experience, become who you want to be? And so that's what the whole ascent to greatness is, just having the vision of where you want to be, create that standard for yourself internally, and then become that person. And then let's see what that looks like. And then throughout that, who knows what your life may be about. You might have
The
different people.
Astros may come knocking.
Yeah, they are looking for that 35-year-old for that pennant race. Yes, that's exactly what they're looking for. But yeah, so going back to mindset. And so that's the same thing with business. So as advisors are looking to grow their business, they just have to see it. And once they see it and they start to actually have some success, starting to convert prospects over to new clients, a lot of advisors taking their practice instead of just in person, but now they're doing it. They're doing their business now in a virtual setting. So they're growing their business. They're attracting new customers from maybe 4 or 5 states away. And now they're starting to actually expand, convert those prospects into clients. That whole next level of confidence starts to come about. And now you have great stories that you can share.
And how do you share the stories?
Well, they can share them a couple ways, as we're doing here. They share podcast episodes. So they make use of their time more efficiently, so they can actually have that conversation with somebody on a podcast episode, share that on their YouTube, have some form of a story that's already created for you to maximize their time in between appointments. So either they're sharing it with future prospects, or their prospects are listening to that on their own downtime. So that's leveraging the advisor's time. So he's not having to say the same story over and over. That consumer is actually finding that information out there on the web. Really, it comes back to, it's just as an entrepreneur itself, is you have to start focusing on, and I talk about this on one of our webinars, Systems Work, People Fail, the 2.0 version. Pareto principles is really focusing on, out of 100%, 20% of what your main effort that you're going to be looking at in your business, you have to really focus on the 20% that's revenue generating. The other 80% that goes along in your business model, that can be delegated out, or you can go ahead and look for others to help you out with that part. And I really found a lot of that material was in a recent book. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not. It was called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Or has anybody on your different shows, maybe you've heard them talk about that?
No one's mentioned it yet. No, not yet anyway.
Yeah, so it's an amazing book. I mean, if you're an advisor, you should write this down. Definitely check out 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. And he actually goes through some of the processes and other industries, not just advisors, but just as an entrepreneur, of how to check into the right mindset, create your own standards, some of the ways and stories of other individuals, entrepreneurs that have gone through that experience of extreme growth and planning for growing for that 10X. And if you fall short, it's okay to fall short. Instead of people, so Patrice, I mean, as y'all's company or any company itself, if anybody asks you, where are you trying to grow or what are your goals? You want to double your business? Is that something that might be a frequent thing? Or you want to grow 20% this year? Does that make sense? Or
Absolutely.
So instead of that, why not put your aspirations and your mindset, checking it into, well, I want to grow 10X. So if I start to plan and create an environment and a business structure to hit those type of goals and those numbers, if you fall short throughout the process, that's going to be okay. maybe, but at least you're checking yourself into, instead of seeing, the next year, I'm talking $100 billion fixed index annuity industry, and we're trying to go to 500 billion.
Right.
You better rev up and have the right type of resources in your practice in order to do that. So going back to mindset, the confidence, the team. So those are the foundational parts to make sure that you're able to strive during that. And I know also entrepreneurs just start to learn that during that, you start to hang out with different people, because success finds success. You'll notice that people that are 2X mindset individuals, they may not be the same ones you're hanging out with today, but you will find that crowd that has that same goal in mind. And then all of a sudden you develop some friendly competitions, you meet like-minded individuals, and you start to learn from one another. And it's amazing. So if you actually check yourself into it, it talks about it in the book. They have several stories. They talk about James Clear, his story about how his goal was to just write a book. Atomic Habits. Have you heard of that one, Patrice?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. So he just in James Clear, one of his big messages in that actual book is talking about just every day, just getting better by 1%. So we talk about 10X is easier than 2X. So that's pretty large jump to jump your business 10X. So James Clear really focusing on that 1% growth each and every day. And over time, over a year, who knows what your results may accrue to at that point. But yeah, the book was fascinating. And actually, it really helped me start to focus more on within myself, our business. And as InsurMark has hired more individuals, there's things that I'm doing today that I could probably hand off to somebody else to find new advisors, just like advisors can hand off instead of calling new clients or calling prospects and trying to get them on the calendar. Why not leverage a third-party service or hire somebody to make those calls on your behalf to sell your features, or most importantly, just talk you up so that person wants to get back on your calendar as opposed to the advisor making those phone calls. So the book was very interesting. I actually had a chance to listen to it over a weekend. So I did one of those audible listenings instead of a reading. And yeah, I'd say that it was actually my first. Have you done one of those before?
I prefer to read. I've got
Yeah.
my Kindle and I do my reading.
Yeah. I do too. I typically do, but this was a long book and I was able to do it in 2 days. So I'm starting to think to myself, maybe that is the future of what I might end up doing. But yeah, it's and really just focusing more. But the book talks about a little more on just focusing on quality. And so really just focusing on the quality of what you're doing, focusing on, as an advisor, quality prospects, the right ideal client that you're looking to attract. If you're a financial advisor, the quality of whatever your client in your market space might be, focus on quality instead of quantity in comparison, set your own standards. So it's a really well put together book.
What are some of the stories that stood out from the book?
Yeah, I mentioned the James Clear one. There's actually one that was it kind of hit me. It's kind of that aha moment when you read it. So everyone has their own unique ability. So it talks about that in the story where you have some form of uniqueness. Actually, a book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, he talks about that. You have your own uniqueness. So if you have your own, in this 10X is easier than 2X in the book, they talk about it, your unique ability, just maximize that as an individual, as an entrepreneur. And knowing the importance of your unique focal point is what will help that entrepreneur 10X faster than anything. So one of the stories that stood out to me was about an operational problem. So there was an operational problem that was taking place at a nuclear power plant. And the malfunction was slowing energy generation down and reducing the efficiency of the actual entire plant itself. So the plant's engineers for months and months were trying to figure out the problem and they couldn't figure it out. And so this was actually killing their business. They were losing revenue. This issue started to become a snowball effect and ruining the plant itself. So what they ended up doing is what most companies might do, they reached out to the nation's top consultant and a specialist that actually specialized in that particular unique ability. And that individual ended up coming to the plant. He spent a whole day there. So he was checking all through the pipes. He was checking through all over the plant itself. So he spent an entire day just looking for the problem. So while they were doing that, so he spent the day climbing ladders. He was looking around, and towards the end of the day, so he gets on a ladder. He makes his way up. He goes to one of the areas in the plant itself, and he just wrote with a huge Sharpie a big X. So he comes down off the ladder, and he ends up saying, that X right there, that's where the problem is. So that is what's going to need to be fixed. Once that's fixed, everything else in this nuclear power plant is going to get working back to normal. And so he goes home, and the next day, so the specialist has his assistant send over the invoice for what he did, basically. And so the assistant ends up sending over the invoice, and it was for $50,000. So it's $50,000, and the business owner of the plant, so he gets the email and he responds back saying, "This is ridiculous. How is it?" He's like, "I am not going to pay the $50,000, or explain to me why we would pay $50,000 for 1X." And the assistant, so she ends up sending a reply back on behalf of the specialist, and the consultant's assistant actually said that, well, it was $1 for putting the X. It was $49,999 for knowing where to put the X in the actual plant.
I love it. I love it.
And so knowing where to put the X for that specific specialist, so that was the focal point, and that's really where your niche is. So as your unique ability, you have to just maximize that. I mean, if you really think about it, you take a step back, that actual nuclear power plant was losing who knows how much money over the last couple weeks, couple months. And because they hired the specialist and they fixed the problem, I mean, you're the one that drives the market. You're the one, as the specialist, you can determine your own price. And so, I mean, you're providing the service that that company needs. So, I mean, set your own standards. And that was their unique ability. And so when entrepreneurs, when they discover that what their unique ability is, they discover what their focal point is in their business itself, they'll be operating by more power and not necessarily force. And that actually leads to, and then so the story, or within the story itself, it talks about there's 4 freedoms. So when you find what those focal points are, there's 4 freedoms that all entrepreneurs want in life. And this is probably, this will probably hit home for some people. They want freedom of time. They want freedom of money. They want freedom of relationship, and they want freedom of purpose. So, I mean, who wouldn't want that, those 4 things in their life as an entrepreneur?
Of course, this then begs the question, how do you find this focal point that you have that's innate?
So we had a pin earlier I wanted y'all to get out. So go ahead and grab that pin again. So that's a good question, Patrice. So here's a question to think about. What will help you earn people's trust, and what will separate you from everyone else? So write that down. And the answer to that is you and your team. So that's what to focus on. It's you and your team and what you're bringing to the table. So it comes down to your experience and the stories that you're sharing with the whatever industry you may be. This one specifically for advisors that listen to this, a lot of the stories, your stories for what you're doing for consumers, that's how you earn trust and credibility for new prospects that may not know you from somebody else. So if you can start focusing more on you and your team, building stories around that, some of the success stories you've had in your actual experience of your operation, that's where some opportunities can come about. There was actually, I talked to a, so here's actually a success story. I was talking to an advisor it was about 10 days ago, and he was doing a virtual appointment. And what he ended up doing is he actually so he's in Louisiana. This individual was the customer or prospect at the time was located in Missouri. Mm-hmm. So he jumped on, used one of our resources to build a lead. So this person found our advisor through one of our lead generation systems. This guy, this prospect gets on our advisor from Louisiana, his actual calendar. So they start talking. So a couple appointments, a couple weeks go by, and this individual wants to move forward. So the challenge for this person who is in Missouri is he ended up being retired for 2 years now. And he was a contract worker. So for what he was doing, he was in the oil and gas industry. He was a contract worker for a company, and where his large 401k was, so it was about, it was, I think, $330,000 or so that he accrued over the years. So for that account, the problem was nobody was able, since he was a contract worker, nobody was able to actually go ahead and release the funds for the insurance carrier that those funds were going to go to, because that individual hasn't, quote unquote, retired, because he was still a contract worker. So although he's been retired and he was a contract worker, there was like a huge breakdown
Systems
in this
work,
large company, and
Welcome
nobody
to
knew what to
Advisor
do.
Mentorship Podcast
There's nobody. So
President
since he's been
Jeremy
separated
Hauser,
from this company
where
for
we
2
share
years,
proven systems
he
and processes
couldn't just call
for
up the
21st
HR
century
because
advisor.
he didn't know who
Today,
HR
it's
was.
essential
It
that
was just
advisors
very
find a way to
troublesome.
differentiate
So
themselves from the competition.
taking
Learn
the
how to elevate
initiative
your game
and talking about
accomplish
experience.
incredible feats,
So I
as
was
Jeremy
chatting with
teaches
this
you how to
advisor,
build
and
a
I
more
said, you know what?
successful and
You
sustainable
know the
business,
name of the
while
company.
realizing a
So
better
why not?
work-life
Let's do
balance
this.
is not
Let's go
only
to
possible,
LinkedIn and
but
let's go look at,
achievable.
based off of HR, and let's
The
try
great
to
Michael
find
Jordan once said,
who the
"Talent wins
person would
games,
be
but
within
teamwork and
LinkedIn itself.
intelligence wins
And
championships."
sure enough,
Welcome
there
to
were
this
about
week's
4 or
episode of
5
the Advisor
names that popped
Mentorship
up.
Podcast. I'm
So
your
he
host,
grabbed
Jeremy
those
Hauser,
4 or
and
5
this
names.
week I wanted to
He
bring
started
on
having
a
each
key
one of them.
player
He
on
sent
our
it over
team,
to
Mrs.
the
Felicia
client.
Turner,
So he let the
aka
client know, hey,
Gigi, aka
look, I know you haven't
Fifi,
had any success over the last
aka
couple of years trying to get
what else?
access to these accounts.
Who knows?
But our team went ahead and put together
Good
a quick
morning,
email.
Jeremy. Thanks
Here
for
are
having
5
me.
people
I
that you could possibly reach out to.
You
Let us know if any
actually
of them are the
requested
ones
by
that you
some.
need to
Wanted
be in
to
touch
hear
with.
from you a little bit
And
more.
3 or
From
4
a
days goes
previous
by.
episode, we did the New
Sure
Year's
enough, the guy
resolution
ended up
earlier
reaching
this
out
year.
to one of those
So
individuals,
wanted to do
and that
a
was the exact
individual
person that needed to be
podcast with you.
notified
So why don't you
within
tell
a
the
day.
audience who
Hit the
is
button, make
Felicia
sure that he was
Turner,
released from
and
service.
what do you do here at
And all of a
InsurMark?
sudden, the account was
Oh,
moved.
Lord, the
That was
pressure.
just
Thanks again,
literally
Jeremy.
left for
And for
gone in a
those who wanted
401k.
to
Um,
hear more
and he was
about
able to,
Felicia,
at that point,
Fifi,
so we
Gigi,
moved those
and
monies
so
over
forth. So
into
Felicia
the third party,
Turner,
so
I've
an
been in
insurance
Houston
carrier.
all of
And
my
so now that
life. High school,
customer,
college as
his
well.
accounts were
Married,
now
20
actually
years, 2
protected.
boys.
So
Well, they're
it was
adults
a
now,
great
29,
story.
almost
And so
19,
really, with
and
that
1
story,
grandson.
that's
So
how that
the
particular
men are
advisor, he
always
has
in
that
my
story forever now.
space,
So
taking up my
why would
space.
someone choose him over
But love
somebody
them to
else?
death.
Well, let me tell you
Lots of
why.
family
I had
here.
this
Grateful and
guy,
thankful
let's
for
just say his name is
them.
George.
Let's see,
I had
InsurMark,
George,
been here
who for 2
now,
years
the
couldn't
Big
get
10.
access to an
So
account that he's
May
building up
20th,
for
10
the
years with
last decade
InsurMark.
or 2 decades.
You know, one day you're
And sure
like,
enough, based on
couple
our
years,
team,
2
we gave
years,
him
3 years,
a
and bam,
solution
10
to the
years.
problem.
That
And here he
time
is
has
now with his
really
account that's
flown
protected,
by.
growing,
Working at
and
InsurMark,
able
it
to
has
retire
been
with peace
really,
of
at
mind
the
in
end of the day,
retirement.
it's been a joy, for
So
real. So
pretty cool story.
definitely still working
Fantastic
with,
story.
as a case manager,
Yeah.
annuity case manager,
So
working
just
directly
knowing
with
as an advisor,
Jeremy
knowing your focal
Hauser
point,
and
focusing on
also
your
Randy
stories,
Yost,
and
but
then
partnering
focusing on
with
you,
them
your
in
experience, but
business.
also your
So
team and
all
what y'all can
of
provide.
annuity
And
business,
good
new
things can happen.
business comes
So
directly
Do
through
you, when you
my
talk to
hands
your advisors, can
primarily
you
for
help
this
them
team,
focus on
along
that,
with, we have
finding
additional
that point, what
staffing to
needs to get
support
done?
in my
yeah,
absence,
I
but
mean,
primarily
absolutely,
annuity case
because
manager has
so
been
just like our team, so we've
my
been
role
doing this for
since I
13
started
years.
the
We come
job here
across
at
a
the company.
lot
So
of
I've
scenarios. So that
learned
advisor had
lots
no clue
of
what to
work
do,
ethics and
and
so
who
forth
knows
to
how
keep
many
the business
individuals
going. So
that
that's kind of
prospect probably met
it.
with over the course
And
of the last
definitely
2
over the
years for
years,
financial advisors, and they probably all gave up.
Now
because
working together
it
for
was probably
about
the same thing.
a little over 10 years.
You
We
know,
celebrated
based
your
off
10-year
the
anniversary
problem
not
we
too long
had,
ago.
we thought
Right, and
outside
you're
the box,
11,
here's a
right?
solution. And so
See, that's how
that
much you care about me.
advisor
now, a
who is
little
in
more.
Louisiana, now he had a
Coming up
solution.
on
And so,
13
sure,
years
absolutely.
now.
Whenever
So,
some of
yeah,
my advisors
no, I'm
joke,
just
but
joking with you.
they look at
But
our team as
definitely
Google.
for
So
as we've
literally,
evolved. I mean, the company,
any
as you've
problems
seen
they
it,
have,
I've seen it
they're like,
over the last
I'm
decade.
just going to throw this
we're
one out here
definitely
to
a
you.
lot different
And what do you
than
think?
where we were when we first
what
started
should we do?
working
And I
together.
say, hey,
and
give me
a
day.
I'd like to hear from
give me
your
a day.
perspective where
I'll see what we
you've
can do.
seen some change.
And surprisingly,
how our company's
we're very
evolved
resourceful.
over
So
the
yeah,
last 10
advisors
years.
lean on us all the time for
what
that.
are your
And that's
thoughts?
why
Like, where do you
you've heard over
where
the
have you seen
episodes,
our
we
company
continue to
probably
grow.
evolve
We just
the
had
most over
some
the last
record-breaking
10 years and maybe the last
months
year or two?
here over the last couple of months. And I think
I'm
a lot of
going
that
to
has
draw
to
from
do
a quote
with
that I've
sharing
heard
those
Mr. Carnes
stories,
say in the
and then
past.
other advisors
At this
are
point, I
able to
think we
leverage
have the
some of
right
those
people
stories
on the
too
bus at
in their
InsurMark,
practice. So
making
yeah.
sure
Great stuff,
everyone
Jeremy.
is in the
Absolutely. Is there
right
something though
position, the right
as we wrap up
role.
here, is there something we
I know from
haven't
time to
talked
time
about
we
that
may
you
have
think
to
we should?
rebalance because of
I would
business
just
growth,
say,
which has definitely
buckle up.
skyrocketed
We
over
got
the years,
a
especially
lot of
for our
exciting
team.
things on not
But
just
definitely
this
making
show.
sure
So make sure
we
you're
we
subscribing
have
to
reassessed
our channel.
roles,
Make sure you're subscribing to
responsibilities, and so
the
forth.
YouTube as well, because we're doing a
Definitely
video version of our
new thing
podcasts.
now,
The
definitely for our
industry
team,
is
is
taking off.
e-apping.
So if you
Submitting
feel
all
like your
business
business
via
is
e-app.
stagnant,
Paper
so
apps,
if
they
for
are there,
whatever
but they
reason
will
you
soon,
feel like
I
you're not
think, phase
seeing or
out. I think
feeling the
everything is going to
growth,
be electronic,
take a step
being
back,
seamless,
maybe listen to some
quick and
previous
done, getting agents
episodes,
paid
gather some
sooner
stories,
versus, we kind of
go
go through
to, and I
the
highly
paper
recommend this,
route. And I know
in
there are some
our Hubbard
instances that you
dashboard for those
have to
advisors that are doing
submit
business with
paper
us.
because you have to get
Go
wet
to our
signatures,
Taking the
for
Trip
some
on demand,
documents,
because
transfer
that
forms per se.
continues to be where those top
But
5
definitely,
advisors
company
share
has
their
evolved.
sales, their
Our
operations and marketing,
advisors who we
what
work
they're doing
with,
in their
that has
business.
grown
So
our
a
team
lot of
just
advisors
collectively
since the summer
for the
have started to
company.
implement some of these
But
strategies, and that's
definitely
why we're starting
ever
to see
evolving
very
the
good
roles.
results
I know we've
when it comes
added
to not just
some
conversion
development
of new
consultants to
prospects
the
to clients,
team.
but also
So that's just
hiring
letting
and then
us know
adding
even more
additional
so
staff.
the
Because
business that we're
I
in.
mean, you can
It's a
be,
great place to
anybody,
be.
you can be as great
It's
as you
going to
want
be
to
here
be.
for a
You can
while.
go good to great,
So,
but
hey, if you're
there's
not
no
on the bus,
individual out
come
there who
on, let's get
is probably
on.
sitting at the top of their industry
I like
without
that.
talking about their
If you
team. There's
because
always
so
a
we'll
team
have
behind that
several
person.
of our
There may be
typical
one
team players
face,
who listen to
but
this
there's always a
podcast
team
episode,
that's
and then
delegating
as
underneath them.
months
So
and years go
make sure to
on,
check
they'll
out
have
that
this
section in
episode for new
Hubbard
advisors
and
might be new to
subscribe to the
InsurMark to
podcast.
listen to.
We have a lot of
From
exciting
your point
things
of
coming up
view
here on the show,
for
and
case
by the book,
management
even though I
and
have
bringing in business,
no
and so
correlation to the book
forth,
at all.
what are some of the things you
no
would
financial
say
gain, but
to a
10x
new
is easier than
advisor
2x. Highly
to have
recommend
them
checking out that book.
avoid when writing their
Like
first
the man
piece of
said,
business?
follow the podcast too and share with others.
Avoid
Thanks for being with us.
writing business